You're standing on a windswept hill 12,000 years ago. No farms, no villages, no writing, no wheel. Behind you, the people you traveled with are hungry. They hunt gazelle. They gather wild grain by hand. Not one of them will ever plant a seed because no human on Earth has done it yet. And yet in front of you, rising out of the ground, is something that should not exist. Stone pillars taller than 3 men, carved with lions, scorpions, and vultures, arranged in perfect rings by people who owned no metal, no pottery, and no written word. Someone built this, and then they buried it. On purpose, they filled it with dirt and walked away. Chiron, 12,000 years ago, before farming, before writing. Someone built this, then buried it. This place is real. It's called Göbekli Tepe in southern Turkey. And when archaeologists finally understood how old it was, it broke the timeline of human history in half. Everything we were taught said temples came after civilization. First farming, then villages, then, much later, temples. Göbekli Tepe came before all of it. But here's the part that changes everything. An ancient text written thousands of years before anyone dug up this hill described a place humans built at the very beginning. A sacred place, a garden, a world that was lost, and then deliberately sealed off, never to be entered again. And the more archaeologists uncover at Göbekli Tepe, the more that ancient description starts to sound less like a story and more like a memory. Let's start with what the archaeology actually shows, because the facts are stranger than most people expect. In the 1990s, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt began digging into this hill. Local farmers had hit stone for generations and assumed it was a medieval graveyard. Schmidt realized almost immediately they were wrong. What he found were massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some over 5 meters tall and weighing up to 10 tons, arranged in circles, decorated with detailed carvings of dangerous animals. Then the dating came back. Chiron, Göbekli Tepe, built around 9600 BC. Around 9600 BC. Roughly 7,000 years older than Stonehenge, about 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. To understand why this is such a problem, you have to understand the order historians believed in for over a century. The story went like this. First, humans learned to farm. Farming produces surplus food. Surplus food lets people settle in one place. Settlement leads to villages, then cities, then eventually, at the top of the pyramid, religion and monuments. Civilization first, temples last. Göbekli Tepe reverses the entire sequence. Visual. Timeline Muitain defarming village temple. Zoi Gaikcheo, Daungoklai. The people who raised these pillars were hunter-gatherers. They had no agriculture. No domesticated animals, no pottery, no metal tools, no cities. By every rule archaeologists had written, they should not have been capable of organizing hundreds of people to quarry, carve, and move 10-ton stones, and yet they did. Chiron. Temples were supposed to come last. Here they came first. This forced a radical new idea. Some archaeologists now argue that Göbekli Tepe flips cause and effect entirely, that the need to gather, feed, and organize large groups of people to build this sacred site may have pushed humans toward farming in the first place. In other words, the temple may have come first, and agriculture second. The desire to build something sacred may be one of the reasons civilization itself began. Now hold on to that idea, because it's about to collide with something written thousands of years ago. But here's the deeper question, the one that keeps archaeologists up at night. Why did they bury it? This is the part that has no clean answer. After using this site for centuries, the builders didn't abandon it and let it crumble. They deliberately, carefully filled the entire complex with rubble and soil, burying the pillars completely. That took enormous effort, nearly as much work as building it. Why would people spend generations raising the most important structure in their world only to erase it from the surface of the earth? Some researchers think it was a way to ritually retire a sacred space. Others think something changed a break, a loss, a catastrophe that made the builders decide this place could never be entered again. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. The first great sacred site humans ever built was sealed off, closed, guarded from the world under tons of earth. A paradise made by human hands that humans themselves shut the door on. Now, where have we heard that before? And here's where the location becomes almost too strange to ignore. Göbekli Tepe sits in the highlands of southeastern Turkey, the region where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers begin. This is the northern edge of Mesopotamia, the very heartland that ancient tradition connected to humanity's origin. The carvings deepen the mystery. Among the animals on the pillars, one appears again and again. The snake. Serpents wind down the stone in long carved lines, one of the most common images at the entire site. Chiron. The most common carving at Göbekli Tepe, the serpent, a sacred garden-like sanctuary, built at the dawn of humanity, in the highlands where the great rivers begin, filled with carved serpents, then sealed away and lost buried so completely that it vanished from human memory for 12,000 years, until a farmer's plow struck stone. Every one of those details is archaeological fact, and every one of them echoes a text far older than the excavation. Now let's open Genesis. Chapter 2 describes a garden planted at the very beginning of humanity, a sacred place where humans first walked. And it places that garden in a specific geography, a land watered by 4 rivers. 2 of them are named directly, the Tigris and the Euphrates, Chiron. Genesis names the Tigris and Euphrates the same rivers that begin at Göbekli Tepe, the exact region where Göbekli Tepe stands. Then comes the serpent and the loss of the garden, and a detail most people forget: that after humanity was sent out, the garden was sealed. Genesis says the way back was guarded, closed off so that no one could return to it. A sacred place at the beginning, a serpent, a garden lost, and then deliberately shut away from humankind. Now, no serious researcher claims Göbekli Tepe is the Garden of Eden. That's not the point, and it's not the claim. The point is stranger and quieter than that. Thousands of years before archaeologists knew this hill existed, an ancient text preserved a memory that at the very dawn of humanity, in the land where the great rivers begin, people knew a sacred place, and then it was sealed away and lost. And when we finally dug into that exact land, we found exactly that: a sacred place at the dawn of humanity, deliberately sealed away and lost. Genesis didn't need the excavation to know that. It described the shape of it thousands of years early. So why did ancient humans bury the world's first temple? Maybe to retire it, maybe because of a catastrophe, maybe for a reason we'll never fully recover. But the pattern is unmistakable. The oldest sacred site ever built by human hands, in the land where the rivers begin, marked by serpents raised up and then sealed away. The builders of Göbekli Tepe left no writing. They couldn't tell us what they lost, so they told us the only way they could: in stone, in serpents, in an entire sacred world, buried and closed off, waiting 12,000 years for someone to remember. Genesis remembered it first. It's not mythology, it's memory.